So you want accountability, but not in the form of just people being made whole. You want people to go to jail. You want to see the perp walk. You want to see the charges. You want to see handcuffs. You want to see them being booked, right? Because for all they're doing. Now, I have three stories, three little tales to help you understand, maybe feel better about the accountability. And before I give you those tales, I want you to pay attention to these two articles. One of them is an article recently that says the Nevada Supreme Court has cleared the way for those folks who are conspiring to make up fake electors during the 2020 election are going to be prosecuted. And also recently, I think it happened today, there's a replacement for Fonnie Williams in the Georgia Find Your Vote case, where Mark Meadows, Donald Trump's former chief of staff, is being prosecuted. He'd gone to the Supreme Court and asked the Supreme Court to help him not be prosecuted there in the Supreme Court. It's like, no, it's a state matter. So even though Donald Trump sent a symbolic pardon to all these people, perhaps knowing that the states are going forward, can't pardon the states. Donald Trump is a 34-time convict in the state of New York. Stephen Miller is the deputy chief of staff. Donald Trump's former chief of staff is being prosecuted criminally today. So note that. So just I want to point that out. So now for the three stories I have that maybe help you feel better about accountability. Maybe, maybe not. The first story is that I once was a brand ambassador for this company. As a gift one Christmas, they sent me an espresso machine. So I'm a person that buys coffees from coffee shops, often very expensive, sometimes spend up to $10 per cup. And so I was very happy to get this gift. And so I made lots of coffee. But as with regular coffee machines, espresso machines also have to be descaled. Essentially, it's a process when you run through like a clean cycle just to, remove the calcification. I don't know, whatever it is to clean the machine. Because it's an espresso machine, it runs automatically. So I hit the button to automatically descale and ran to my desk to start doing some work. When I came back, there was water all over the counter. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I hit the button again and I went back to my office. And after a few minutes, I came back to check on it. Water all over the counter. I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? This is so bizarre. I did it one more time like an idiot. The final time I said, you know what, let me just sit here and have the patience to just watch this thing. So that's what I did. So as the descale process went along, I saw when the water started to pull out, it turns out I was supposed to put a large bucket underneath the spout. And that's what would collect the water. Had I stood there instead of running to my office both times, I would have noticed the very first time that I skipped that step and would have avoided those 3 times that I wasted time and effort and got frustrated. So the symbolic message there for you is that there is a process to all of this. The reason why Donald Trump's cases and they're falling apart is because they're not following the process. I'm JJ Legal. I'm in the dockets. So what I can tell you is that because they don't follow the process, the folks who they harm in all of their actions swiftly and quickly run to the courts. And one of the arguments they make to the courts is that the Trump administration violated with this thing called the Administrative Procedure Act. Every single case says that because before the executive can make anything that's a drastic change, whether you're doing a reduction in force, whether you're changing the rules or laws or policies, adding new requirements, taking away requirements, saying that we're going to now only allow grants based on certain things. Anything they do that's disruptive requires a thorough record being made. Part of that record requires what's called a notice and comment. You have to give public notice and the public opportunity to comment. You have to gather facts, stats, data, expert opinions, and you build a thorough record. And then based on that, you can make the decision. Otherwise, it's be found arbitrary and capricious and be unwound. That's a law in 1954 that was created to make sure that this clunky, sometimes like inefficient, but yet sturdy, strong, stable government that took 240 something years to build doesn't get dismantled easily or quickly based on culture wars or based on political ideology. Like we see here, they said it took a long time to build these things. This is a lot of work to establish all these rules and procedures. So if you're going to change it, it better be based on something. So that is what happens. Donald Trump does not follow the process of procedures. And that's why you can say the courts rip it under it. That's the water. That's the symbolic of water. It comes back and the descale process is not finished. So the process of trying to the process of trying to kick people out of the country, the process of trying to take away jobs, remove grants, do all sorts of things like that, get unwind and reversed and frustrate them. And it's been a complete waste of time. All that time, the effort, had they just done it right the first time. My second example is my husband and I drive our daughter to school. We take turns sometimes. So along the path in the morning, there's different stretches where there's a lot of traffic. So my husband discovered one day that along a certain stretch of traffic, he can dodge and bob and weave in a side street and end up back into the, around and avoid that long stretch of standstill traffic by going around. And he taught me that method, and I used to do it as well. We used to do it. One day, I noticed that I looked ahead, and the traffic ahead of me through the straight line path was not that bad. And I timed it. And it turns out, had I just had the patience and sit there, I actually got to the other point that I normally get without the frustration of bobbing and weaving, without the extra time of bobbing and weaving, without burning the gas, without burning the resources that takes of doing all the bobbing and weaving on the side just to end up right here. So with that lesson there, if you want to use it symbolic in terms of people saying they're not being held accountable, it's not happening fast enough, is that they're patience. The lesson there is just to be patient, because it's not going to happen instantly. We know from the last administration, after they left, immediately Joe Biden started, he started unwinding those executive orders. They started making and taking the process of removing this stuff. He's still in office. So we had that limitations of that. And the Supreme Court is still a Supreme Court, green lighting a lot of his stuff. Congress right now currently is still majority Republican. So what can we do for that? We're working on that. These special elections in Tennessee is coming up. And soon Mike Johnson's going to lose the Republicans are going to lose their majority in Congress. And that's the end of Mike Johnson's speakership. It's the end of that. So that takes time. Also, Senate Operation 2/3, my one-woman campaign to get enough people to remove Donald Trump. If we were to get 20 senators, I know that's a tough call. But with that, you can actually remove, impeach, remove, and convict. But that's next year. So patience. It's going to take some time. And that could bring me to my last one in terms of endurability and in terms of sustainability. And when we remove them, we're going to remove them hard for cause, and we're going to remove them permanently. But you got to build a strong foundation. So here's my third story. The third story I usually like to say is imagine there's a contest to build a sandcastle on the beach, and there's two teams. And the teams are given 1 hour to build a sandcastle. The first team just gathers some leaves and sticks that they find along the beach, and they build it, and they take 15 minutes to build the sandcastle, and they're done. And they're sitting there just chilling, waiting for the 45 minutes to lapse so they can get judged. The second team, rather than just take the time, they use a full hour, and they get sand, and they compound the sand, and they build a strong sandcastle. Now, when there's a wind that blows by or the first tide that comes in, that's the end of the 15-minute house. It was not built on anything. It was not stable. It's not sustainable. A couple of winds can blow through and some tide can come through, and that version, that the other team that built it with strong foundation or compacted sand, that's going to last long. So the shock and awe, the quick that Donald Trump came in 11 months to do so much dismantling, just as fast as dismantling them, I'm in the dockets, I'm seeing them roll them back, reverse. Say, no, you can't ref people. That TPS status, you didn't give 60 days notice, we have to reverse that. You took away those grants. The law requires you to do it on an individual by individual basis. You guys chose to just delete grants based on certain buzzwords that you saw in the grant application. That's unlawful. Give them back their grants. We saw you fire people, probationary employees, and say you're firing them based on calls, all of them, 11,000, 11 million, whatever. And it turns out you're supposed to do it individual by individual basis because the probation employees you were firing were actually great employees. So that's against the law. So give them back their job. That one's kind of too little too late. So because they do not build a strong foundation on what they do, they are fast and quick. They're not based on facts or law. The judges are calling them out on it. Like, what the hell is going on? This is not good. I'm not seeing it. So judges appointed by Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Bill Clinton, as those appointed by Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump himself, are finding that there's no legal or financial basis or regulatory basis or anything basis for them to do what they're doing, and they reverse them because there's no foundational basis for what they're doing. Now, we who build a strong case, we're collecting data. We're watching. You see the states' attorney generals are moving forward. You see the states are still acting. You see everyone, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're taking our time because when we get rid of them, we want to get rid of them. We're going to set the foundation so we're strong. So patience, accountability is not an instant thing. Accountability will come. Just have some patience. It's going to get there. We need to build a strong foundation, and trust the process. That's the lesson there. I hope that's helpful. JJ Legal, each one teach one. Share this video so more people get